team. Today we're assessing our hip mobility. Our hip mobility is incredibly important into how we feel throughout our day, whether we're just walking or playing a sport. We need to make sure that our hips are moving optimally and also that they're symmetrical. So the more balanced they are mobility-wise on each side, the better we're going to be able to feel and perform. We're going to be going through 6 different movements that will pretty much cover each motion that our hips need, again, whether we're walking or doing any other activity. And your job is to kind of compare and say, okay, are both hips doing well? Or is one hip a little tighter on this plane of motion, or is one hip a little tighter on this motion? And I definitely recommend you write these down kind of as we go. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. And it's very important that we start in kind of a shoulder width position, ideally toes forward. Otherwise, if we have one toe out, that can change our reading in one hip, okay? Whichever hip's kind of above, and sometimes the opposite. So we're gonna go ahead and get started by taking our hands right on our hips, and we're gonna start off with rotation, which is incredibly important in most every activity that we do, including our walking. And we're just gonna turn to the left, right to about end range of motion. So it's very important that as we go through these, we do not wanna feel any pain or really any discomfort. What you should feel right as we get to the end is maybe a little bit of tightness. So whatever kind of stops you, that's where you're gonna kind of stop. So for me, it's about right there, and I'm gonna make a note of that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and in the same foot position here, I'm gonna turn to the right. And I'm gonna go as far as I can. And again, as far as I can is all relative. So it's just what feels good to me, and until I feel that little bit of tightness. I'm not forcing anything. And for me, I feel a little bit more tightness on this right side, so I'll make a note of that. So that's the rotational plane of motion. Our hips also move side to side. So first we're gonna kind of go narrow feet, as long as you feel balanced. If not, keep a little bit more shoulder width or wider. And we're gonna put our hands on our hips again, and we're gonna kind of push it out to the side. And when I say push it, it's just kind of like a gentle kind of reach with that hip. And then this left hand is just kind of guiding it. And then we're gonna go as far as we can, and you'll notice my upper body just kind of naturally is gonna tilt to the left. It's not leading the motion, this hip is leading the motion. Okay, very good. And then we're gonna go to the other way. So now the pelvic bone, and that's kind of what I'm speaking in terms of, is gonna be moving to my left here. And I'm just gonna go, again, as far as I can, until I feel about end range of motion. And you might say, hey, these both feel really good. Or you might say, hey, these both feel really tight. Or again, one might be a little tighter than the other. Okay, so we might have felt a little stretch out here, depending on which way we were going. Okay, this one's definitely assessing more of that lateral hip. And I felt a little bit more going this way. So now I'm gonna go wide feet, okay? And I'm gonna kind of do the same thing. So I'm gonna start to my left here, pelvic bone's moving to my left. And you'll notice I'll let kind of that hip get right to the inside of my knee here. Again, now my upper body just kind of naturally tilting to the right. My right hand's just kind of guiding me. I'm going as far as I can until I feel a little bit of end range of motion. And then we're gonna compare that to the other side now. I highly recommend start small. You can always go further. So you start small, you say, that's pretty good. And then you go a little bit more and you say, that's all right, that's good. And then you go a little more and you say, all right, that's about end range. And then that's where you maybe kind of do the last couple reps. It's kind of, if end range is right here, you're kind of going right up to it. We don't want to pass it. Okay, very good. So now our hips are also responsible for a forward and back motion here, okay? So the first one we're gonna do is we're gonna just kind of hinge, just like this, and I'm gonna kind of feel it out. It's like, you know, do I feel a little bit in my back? Do I feel one leg, back of the leg, maybe more than the other? And that's what I'm kind of taking note of here. Now, if you wanted to look at the right hip a little bit more, you could go right hip forward, or right foot forward rather. And then same with the left foot. That might give you a little bit clearer of a picture. And you can notice my pace, very slow, very methodical, just feeling it out. And then we'll come up. And now lastly, we'll go ahead and we're gonna drive this hip forward. So I'm just kind of pushing it forward. I'm really not tilting it much. We will be doing a little bit of the pelvic bone tilting, but that's more in the lumbar video. So we're just gonna drive the hip forward. And just kind of feeling it out, how everything's feeling. You might feel a little bit in the front hips. You might feel that low back there. And just go again till about end range, wherever you feel that might be. It's where you're starting to feel a little bit of a pull. Or you're feeling a little bit of something, okay? And then you could, again, go ahead and go left foot forward. Important that the knees stay straight, not locked, but just a little bit of a slight bend. And then the other foot forward, and this might just give you a little bit better of a look. So if you're right foot forward in this one, we're kind of looking at that left front hip. And very good, team. Now, if we've noticed that there's one side that's a little bit tighter than the other, or one plane of motion, you might have noticed the rotational plane tighter in the right side, and a different forward plane, sagittal plane, a little tighter in the left side. That's okay. So this hip might be really good at some stuff and not as much as other, and then same with this. They might be better at different things. Your job is to create symmetry and improve both sides. So if you notice that this one was a little tighter, here's what's really cool. So here's how we can start to create that symmetry. This is the test, but it's also the exercise, okay? For those of you that followed Gary Gray's teaching, the exercise is the test and the test is the exercise. So you can literally do these movements until you started to feel more symmetrical. Now, if you're feeling some pain, then again, you could just start with what feels okay. Or you might need a more detailed program from a coach, which in that case, you can contact us through the HomeFit Plus app, or you can contact a coach near you. You may find that just a more involved online program would also be helpful to you too, or further videos that maybe focus on a specific area, like the outer hip, which we also have for free on our HomeFit app.